American culture? Who's responsible for that? Like, can anyone answer that? Without black people, without minorities, without people of color, like, let's be real.
To me, Black History Month is a time for the country to reflect on the stories, tragedies, and triumphs of one of its ethnic communities.
It's a true time of recognition of what my people have done over history and how we've contributed to America and to the world.
And I love Black History Month. Whenever you learn about the history of your peoples, it just gives you knowledge of self, and it's so like fulfilling and so enlightening. But it's not just a month to me.
Because this history and these stories are very important to the overall American history, and it shouldn't be ignored. Black history should be something that's acknowledged all the time, not just for one specific month, especially not the shortest month of the year.
The first thing we should understand is that Black history is history. And that's not to erase the Black role in history. It's actually quite the opposite. It's actually including Blackness in history, because what we learn growing up in public schools, it's not full history. People like Thomas Jefferson and other esteemed presidents and people in the US government are really glorified on this campus, but a lot of the philosophy and ideals they put out there is very contradictory to what they were doing in real life.
There's so much salient hypocrisy in writing all men are created equal, but you own slaves. If you brutalize black bodies on a regular basis, how could you try to stand as the paragon of equality for the nation during its founding?
Being a predominantly white institution, a lot of this place was built by slaves, and it was built by like my people. For everything around me to be named by someone that could have been one of my oppressors, it's just like the chance of me seeing something that actually expresses like what my people done for this campus. I won't really find it unless you go to like Lemon or Hardy, where they've attributed something to us finally.
Some people celebrate Thomas Jefferson because he's their ancestor, but there are also students that go here whose ancestors are slaves owned by Thomas Jefferson. They have to walk by that statue every single day, and while they see people practically worship him for his contributions to the college and this country, they have to think back on how he treated someone that was in their family line.
For those people who who ask why there isn't a White History Month, that's maybe one of the most ignorant things I've ever heard in my life.
There's no specific month for white history because white history lasts all 12 months of every single year. There doesn't need to be a White History Month because white people haven't been told you're not as important as these other groups, your rights don't matter as much as the rights of these other people, and your civic liberties infringe on our civic liberties. It's never been like that for white people.
To go through centuries of oppression, for someone to actually say that there should be a time where whites should be, I guess, like celebrated, like I'm not saying that there shouldn't be, it's just that this is like the least that America could do.
You can look around this campus and most of the buildings are named after white people. There's statues here of white people, but the presence of anyone ethnic that has contributed to this campus or this country, it's very minimal.
Black history is kind of celebrated on the campus, and it's kind of like, is it? The only way to really learn about Black history, you have to be in an Africana course.
If you take an American English class, you might read a few things written by Frederick Douglass, something by Martin Luther King. Unless you take a class that's specific to Black studies, you won't get the full integration, even on an introductory level, of what it means to be knowledgeable about ethnic programs.
To understand Black history is to understand that Black people, we are worthful, like we are humans. A lot of the time, especially like in public schools, we're given these figures as like sort of a rebuttal, like a response, like, oh, this is an extraordinary Black person. Like we have to prove ourselves that we're just simply human.
People should just allow themselves to be exposed to more histories that stem outside of their own history. Until I got to college, I wasn't even that well versed in Black history because I just went to a regular public school system that just did what was required.
Like I feel like you shouldn't have to wait until you are in college to find your Blackness and find how Black you are, and just to really just learn your history and your culture.
Whatever your field is, you should try to listen to more stories that are outside of your perspective, whether they're Black stories, Asian American stories, European stories, whatever. Everyone has their own perspective based on their own life experiences. You're doing yourself a huge disservice if you keep yourself limited to just what you're most comfortable with or what you're used to.